Yes. Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. Arrests have occurred, and we are now going to see some justice and accountability. We're going to go through the three individuals who got rounded up today by the FBI. Their pictures and mugshots, or arrest photos rather, are all over the interwebs, and we'll break it down. We've got the Nekima Levy Armstrong, who we've talked a lot about, who is an agitator, the woman who was there on the microphone and the loud horn when she was marching in with Entanglements at her side. She's now picked up and in handcuffs. We've also got the other woman, the BLM lady, who is behind her, who was on the school board somewhere. We'll refresh our recollection about her. And then the other guy, the screaming demon who was inside the church yelling at Christians, calling them fake Christians and making fun of their coffees and such. He, of course, also arrested. Now, the one guy we haven't seen charges for yet is Don Lemon. And of course, a lot of questions about why that is. But we'll go through the latest. Apparently, the judge who denied the criminal complaint is married to a woman who works for Keith Ellison in the Attorney General's office. And so we've got that queued up. And then we want to go through some of the prior FACE Act prosecutions and just go through the timeline on this, because Pam Bondi, the DOJ, the FBI, DHS, they move quickly on this, and we've got 3 people now in custody. And the prior Biden FACE Act prosecutions took a lot longer, a lot of time elapsed before they actually were able to do anything about it. And so we've got some nice action from them, and I know there's a lot of conversation out there about how quickly these things are happening and how quickly the big cases are developing. And we're going to go through it all and just put some context around it before we jump into Jack Smith, because Jack Smith was also in Congress today. A lot of it was boring and dreary, and the Democrats talking about insurrection, don't die, whatever. And then we had the Republicans, and they dug into him. They did their homework on this. We sometimes see that they don't, but they did a nice job today. And so we've got a couple of Republicans to highlight. Harriet Hageman, Jim Jordan was out there. We've got Brandon Gill and many others who were all lacing into Jack Smith and really peering into his oath and why he was even more illegitimate than we ever thought. Not only was he statutorily illegitimate, but he was also illegitimate because he was never even properly sworn in. So we'll go into that. We've got a lot to unpack there, and there was a commotion. So stick around to the end of this, because Ivan Raiklin was out there, and he got into it with Michael Fenon, and there were fireworks there, and Fenoni's come after you, and Ivan's like, calm down, sir. Let's just have a peaceful conversation. You don't need to insurrect the whole building. Michael Fenon having a tough day today. So we're going to go through all of it. It's a beautiful day, beautiful stream. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for becoming a member. We also had a great members only stream this morning. We talked about the files battle and how Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie lost their attempt to kind of squeeze into the case to force the DOJ to appoint a special master. We went through the motion. Rep. Luna is very unhappy about this. She's saying that she is going to impeach the judge, which we're happy with. We are happy to just start impeaching any judges. We really don't care, because we've been waiting for something to happen with Boasberg and more. Of course, we'll get into that with Jack Smith. But thanks for being here, and thanks for becoming a member. We do great member streams. We have an awesome community, and we really appreciate your support. So with all that now, and with the tubes warmed up, let's get to it, baby, because here we go. Arrests now happening in Minnesota. This woman led the charge into the church, trying to interrupt, obstruct, and prevent the delivery of Christian services to Christians who were seated there wanting to get salvation. And she said, sorry, people, I don't really care about your First Amendment rights. I don't care about freedom of religion. I care about my right to protest. I'm unhappy that there's an ICE agent who is in your midst. And so I have something to do about it. And so she came in, barging in there, along with many others, Entanglements, and they've all now been picked up. In fact, Kash Patel, he came out and showed us all 3 who got rounded up. And we're going to go through each one. But every last individual, said Kash, who allegedly targets our brave federal law enforcement, targets places of worship, or in any ways pays or facilitates such illegal activity will be pursued. And here are some nice photos. This is Nekima Levy Armstrong, and she doesn't look as energized as she was in the church that day. Yeah, things are changing. So she's now in handcuffs. And the other individual who got arrested is this woman, And we've learned a lot more about her, and she's pointing, I guess, to them, like signaling that they're there or something. Kind of has like a gangster look or something, like Polo. I don't know what's going on. But she got arrested, and so did this guy. Third subject is called William Kelly, and he's this person right here. And so they've all now been arrested, and we found the announcement courtesy of Pam Bondi, and she posted, she said this morning, minutes ago, at my direction, HSI and FBI agents executed an arrest in Minnesota. Whoa, nice way to wake up in the morning. A little bit of arrested criminals in your cup. So far, we have arrested Nikuma Levy Armstrong, who allegedly played a key role in organizing the coordinated attack on City's church in St. Paul, Minnesota. We will share more updates as they become available. And so listen loud and clear, punks. We do not tolerate attacks on places of worship. Hell yeah. So then, as we were all celebrating that, like, man, that's pretty cool. Nice. Justice. Then, bing, another update. A second arrest has been made in my direction. Chantel Louisa Allen. That's this other woman right over here. Chantilla. And she got arrested. We've got some more images of her as well. So many tabs here, hard to keep track. Says more to come. She has been taken into custody. We will protect our houses of worship. And then, bing, number 3. Update. William Kelly is now in custody. Come to the front of the line. Our nation was settled and founded upon or by people fleeing religious persecution. Religious freedom is the bedrock of this country. We will protect our pastors. We will protect our churches. We will protect Americans of faith. Well done. Nicely done, Pam Bondi. All right, so that's how it started. Then Kristi Noem came out and she said, oh, look what we got here. Homeland Security investigators and FBI agents arrested Nikuma Levy Armstrong, who played a key role in orchestrating the church riots in St. Paul, Minnesota. Now, she is being charged with a federal crime under 18 U.S. Code 241, conspiracy against rights. Religious freedom is the bedrock of the United States. There is no First Amendment right to obstruct someone from practicing their religion. And so all of them are out. Kash and Pam was even having fun with the check mark. See, she posted this and was responding to this guy who had this video. And here it is once again.
Yesterday, I went into a church with Nikuma Armstrong and I protested these white supremacists. A pastor of the church is a fucking ICE leader in the city.
As you can see, all these pretend Christians, all these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps.
So, you know, Pam Bondi, you want to come and arrest me? You want to come and give me charges? So be it.
Yesterday,
and so that's when Pam says, okay, no problem. Gotcha. And now he can face those charges that he wanted so badly. So Kash was excited about this as well. So this morning, we executed an arrest of these people, St. Paul, Minnesota, on violations of FACE Act charges. And so we're going to come back to that. FACE Act charges, of course, have been brought before, but how do they work exactly? And what are some of the penalties? And why, honestly, is Kash and Pam and Kristi Noem, why are they so deserving of praise on this? Is because they went actually very fast relative to what Joe Biden did with the prior DOJ. So got photos of her, Chantel. Third subject has been arrested. Here is Chantel Allen, and she is a board member. Okay, this was her trying to explain away her crimes before she got picked up last night, courtesy of TMZ and Libs of TikTok. She said she did what needed to be done. Well, we'll have to see what happens with the prosecution and the charges, but here is her.
We found out through the ACLU lawsuit that David Easterman, I keep saying his name wrong, Easterwood, was a pastor at this church on Summit Avenue. And for us, that's just really, it was like the lowest bar. It's like, you know, you have these people in our community just really terrorizing our children and our women and our different immigrant communities. They're arresting U.S. citizens and doing all of this illegal stuff, all the way down to even the most graphic murder of Renee Good,
who tried to run over a federal agent with his car.
And then we have the head of this whole operation standing in a pulpit preaching to a congregation every Sunday morning. And so that was really just not okay for us.
So then they went and invaded the church and committed federal crimes. So that's her justification. She's admitting it all, right? It's all there on the record. Yep, no, we plotted this. We wanted to interrupt them. We were unhappy with their political position because they had this guy in there. And so we can do whatever we want. We know that the laws exist. This other woman, Levy Armstrong, is a lawyer. And Don Lemon covered many cases of other conservative journalists getting arrested. Steve Baker, for example. Owen Schroyer, another example, who were in there reporting on things. The DOJ didn't give a crap. They put them in prosecution lineup 101. So now they just keep admitting it, and they were doing that all week, which is idiotic, but they did it. Now, this guy, William Kelly, is also being charged with 18 U.S. Code 248, Section 248. So 241 is conspiracy against rights. We've talked a lot about that here on this channel. And yeah, 248 is the FACE Act violation. So we'll see if they stack on something else. The way we've seen this charge before is you get the FACE Act and then a conspiracy against rights to turn it into a major felony to get you years in prison. So he's now been picked up and he's wearing his hat still all the way to the finish line. So he's now in custody. Then we see, well, he's posting some other videos, but we don't need to listen to him. And so all of them now picked up, and Pam Bondi and the DOJ did it pretty rapidly, right? This happened just this past Sunday. So well done to them. Now, we've also got Don Lemon looking quite nervous. After his friends just got arrested, we saw screenshots were being snapped to him this morning on his podcast. And as they were getting rounded up, Don Lemon looks down at his phone and he's going, uh-oh, we're in big trouble here. Plays it off. The stream goes on. And then he says, go vote for me in some stupid contest. But what's curious is he has not been charged. Apparently they were wanting to charge him. So Bondi, DOJ, Kash, Nome, the rest of them brought the case to a federal judge. We'll learn who that is. But the judge denied it. And CBS got the scoop on this. They said a Minnesota federal magistrate judge refused to sign a complaint charging independent journalist called Don Lemon in connection with a protest inside a church in St. Paul on Sunday. Multiple sources familiar with the proceedings told CBS. The attorney general is enraged at this judge's decision. And it's curious because this judge is apparently married to somebody who works in Keith Ellison's office in Minnesota. Bondi has been in Minnesota for 2 days as the Justice Department has sought to surge enforcement there. Now, a different source stressed the process is not over, okay? The Justice Department could find other avenues to charge him rather than a direct complaint, go present it to a grand jury, see if the grand jury will lead to an indictment. But again, we're in Minnesota, so who knows? Chantel Louisa also arrested. She was serving on the board of the St. Paul School Board. Nekima Levy also was there. Now, a source familiar with the matter confirmed the magistrate judge did approve the charges against Nekima and Allen. Kristi Noem from Homeland said, yep, they're going to be hit with conspiracy against rights. 2 or more people cannot conspire to interfere with constitutionally protected rights. And the Biden administration brought this against multiple pro-lifers and threw them in prison for this under this exact same framework, like the free practice of religion. We'll come back to that. Protesters said they entered the city's church on Sunday after discovering that ICE was there. We have to stop them. So protests and clashes between some residents and others have been occurring daily since the Trump administration has been back in power. In an interview with the pastor, Lemon said, we have a First Amendment right. And Harmeet Dillon has been out today saying many others are very likely going to face charges. She said, being a journalist is not a badge or a shield that protects you from any criminal consequences. She told Benny Johnson, shout out. Declined to comment today. U.S. attorney in Washington faced similar hurdles last year after Trump flooded streets. And of course, we talked about a surge in Washington, D.C. So no charges yet, but we're learning more about who this guy actually was. Bill Malugin said that the magistrate judge who denied the charges against Don Lemon is this guy called Douglas Miko. And Douglas Miko is just a magistrate judge, right? So he's not a duly appointed U.S. federal judge. He's kind of like a lower level judge in training, like an assistant judge. And he refused to sign off on the arrest of Don Lemon. But it's curious because his wife apparently works for Keith Ellison. Keith Ellison, of course, the attorney general of Minnesota, who is besties with Don Lemon, who was on Don Lemon's podcast saying, Don, you have all the rights in the world. So this judge's wife works for the guy who is refusing to investigate Don Lemon, but in fact, having powwows with him on his podcast. It's like, Judge, how could you even possibly rule on this? You have to conflict yourself off. Your wife works for the guy. All right. So his wife works over there. Her name is this. We pulled this up. Caitlin M. Miko, attorney, Office of the Minnesota Attorney General. You can see she was there. It looks like appointed back in 2015. So it's been there for quite a while. Sources of income, United States District of Minnesota, and Office of the Minnesota Attorney General. Don't really know what else she does, but she is listed over there as somebody who works at his office. And so if we do a little Miko search, where is the M? Miko, right there. Caitlin Miko, Assistant Attorney General. See that right there? So that's apparently a relationship that exists that certainly feels like a conflict. If her boss is having conversations with Don Lemon on podcasts and he's married to her and he indicts Don Lemon, that's not looking good for her boss, who should have indicted Don Lemon. So he's maybe protecting his wife's boss, essentially, which is a weird thing to do as a man. But all right, so that's who that is. This might be the judge. Hard to really know, but this is from a LinkedIn profile by a guy by the same name who is a federal defender, probably before he became the magistrate judge. So that's the judge who is not currently allowing Don Lemon to be charged. Now, no more information from him over on the website because he's a magistrate judge, but we'll certainly learn more about that. Now, what we saw in response to this is Mayor Jacob Frey. This is, of course, one of the mayors who's responsible for the condition and the state of his city, but he is unhappy with the fact that these people got arrested. He said, "This is a gross abuse of power. The federal government is picking and choosing who to investigate, going after protesters and not the person who shot and killed one of our neighbors. Do you mean the woman who tried to run over a federal agent? Yeah. I am calling for Nikema to be released immediately." And so just continuing to agitate the whole thing, even though he's not, I guess he's not supporting the church invasion, but nothing really should happen because it's legitimate protest. Now, Todd Blanche was out today and he said, look, we're just getting warmed up on this. A different source said this is not over, okay? Don Lemon hasn't been charged today. The others have, but more will be coming soon. Here is Todd.
The disgraced former CNN host Don Lemon was part of the crowd that went into that church. He's suggesting that his interviews and cell phone video were part of journalism. There has been some suggestions as well that the DOJ would look at his behavior in that incident. He doesn't get a get out of jail free card because he's self-described as a journalist.
No, the freedom of the press extends to a lot of different areas. It does not extend to somebody just trespassing and being embedded with a group of rioters and being part of the group that storms inside of a church. So as our Assistant Attorney General said yesterday, we are absolutely investigating that conduct. And the fact that man, that Mr. Lemon, thought that was a good idea to do that and then to race away from it saying it was freedom of the press, well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we will see. And Don Lemon was actually salivating in it. He was outside walking around in the snow. He's like, look at that kid. He's so traumatized. Well, he learned his lesson. Maybe he shouldn't go to a church with an ICE agent in there. And inside the church, that little kid was also traumatized from Don. You can imagine he's a pretty traumatic person. So Pam Bondi was also out. We got this last night, courtesy of Fox News. She said, you guys better look out for more prosecutions coming because you're now trying to dox and attack federal agents in a systematic fashion.
There's a database that's out right now involving people putting ICE agents' license plates and other information out there in the public. It's here in Minnesota, it's in other cities. Can those people expect to face federal charges?
They better look out because you cannot dox, you cannot, law enforcement's information is private, and you wonder, why are our ICE officers wearing masks? To protect themselves from these people. We are going to do everything legally we can do to keep our men and women in law enforcement safe and the citizens of this state safe so they can go to church, they can go to school, they can go to work, and they can feel safe. Minnesota has been a war zone with criminals, no longer under the Donald Trump administration.
All right, so Pam Bondi is out, and she is saying that we are not playing around anymore. We had CNN, by contrast, was out before the arrest took place, and they were having conversations with Nekima and essentially defending her while on camera. You can see the mayhem and the chaos happening at the church itself. And this woman apparently just can't put two and two together. Let's listen to this just outstanding clip.
And I do want to correct something that was said in the beginning. We did not rush into that church. We actually went and sat down and participated in the service. And after the pastor prayed, that is when I stood up and asked him a question in response to his prayer. And then he responded to me. And then I proceeded to ask him about Pastor David Easterwood and how is it possible for him to serve as both the pastor and the director of ICE for Minnesota.
Okay, so shout out to the CNN producer, whoever swapped that camera in to play the video so they can say, wait a minute, you just walked in and you sat down. And they're like, okay, it's time for the Eucharist. And you're like, actually, while we're all, just enjoying the body of Christ, I just have a couple points I'd like to make. Excuse me over here. I don't think that's how it went. And so they played it right next to her lying through her teeth about it. And you can watch the CNN anchor, right? When she does this, like looking down, it's deception. You can just read it on her face. She can't even look you in the camera because she knows she's listening to a liar right in her ear and has to turn her face away because she's so ashamed of her inability to call it out.
Instead of responding to me, as soon as I said the name David Easterwood, the pastor says, shame, shame. And that is when I led us in chants, justice for Renee Good and hands up, don't shoot. So I want to clarify that. We didn't rush in. We didn't bust in.
You can see it right there. They just waltzed right in there.
We were a part of the service until I got up and posed that question to the pastor.
All right. And obviously, I'm not going to dispute your saying what happened. I'm merely describing how CNN is describing it. I obviously wasn't in the room. But that moment that you're talking about, and obviously the way you lay it out could dramatically affect things. But the moment you talk about justice.
Again, she can't even look at the video. It's probably playing right in front of her. She's like, oh, crap, there's the actual video. I can't describe it. I wasn't in the room, and I can't see the video that's playing on the screen. Because if I admit that I've seen the video, then I'm going to have to call you a liar for lying to our entire audience. But the CNN people are so lacking in any integrity that they don't care. It's like their viewers can just watch this. Like, we can see it with our eyeballs. Like, no. That's not how it was. It was different. We were peaceful protesters. Fiery, but mostly peaceful, as it was last summer. So now let's compare and contrast this with some other FACE Act prosecutions, just so we can get some context around kind of how quickly these things go. Because there's a battle out there about, the DOJ is going too slow, and the DOJ and FBI and many others saying, no, we're going fast enough and all the things. And I think that, both can be true. Maybe they're going certainly slow on some things and much faster on other things. It's a big agency and there's a lot of components to it. But there is, I think, some credit that needs to be given today for how quickly these things actually came about. Because when you look at this historically speaking, back in February 22, 2023, Joe Biden years, they indicted people, and it took them a while to do this, okay? So they just said, boom, rewind the clock, 2023, February, almost, well, it's not February yet. But the Justice Department announced today that they brought an indictment. They charged 8 people. So consider this as the moment of charging, right? And almost like today, like the arrest happened, the charges are now getting dropped. But when did the actual criminal incident occur? In this case, it was back in August 2022, right? So almost 4 years earlier. And August 2020 to 2023, so it took them quite a while to bring this charge, whatever the time. I can't do math here, so don't even try, Rob. But all right. So a long time. It's been years. Incident happens, and really the backstory on this, like why the Biden people were so duplicitous, is because this was they were also very unhappy with the Dobbs decision that came down, or in anticipation of the Dobbs decision coming down. So abortion was going to become their main issue, and so they really escalated these prosecutions. And these were defendants that got charged, 8 of them, physical obstruction. They were blocking people, and the people there couldn't get their health services, right? They couldn't actually get any treatment for their murderous activities or whatever they were doing. So the indictment said that, again, back on April 2021, right? So 2021 until the indictment comes in 2023, years. Like, it literally takes years. So the Assistant Attorney General brought the charges. Okay, got all that. So we can see from the date of the incident until the date of the indictment or the date of the arrest, in this case, was years. Similarly, now this is where 7 people got charged in Michigan, right? So here you can see this came about August 2024. Joe Biden's on his way out. 7 people were convicted in 2024. And let's go back through the process. So again, August 2020, FACE Act. Is this the same case? There was a blockade, and it takes time, I guess is the point on this one. I have several of these open, so let me just go through them. Here we goes, another one. Tennessee woman, right? So 41 months. And again, we're looking at the time that elapses between the date of the incident and the date of the charges or conviction. So once again, June 2020, they were charging all of the Trump era cases. So June 2020, then there was a 9-day jury trial in 2024, right? So these cases take a long time. Again, June 19th, June 20th, at various times, they were at a center. They blocked the main entrance. Somebody live streamed their conduct, just like Don Lemon did. On the live stream on the 19th, Williams stood inches of the officer and said, "We're going to terrorize you," and said, "Your business is going to be over, mama," which is a fun statement. So they were all investigated, and the indictments and the charges came much later. So the fact that this happened on Sunday and we've got already charges like within days is pretty damn impressive. And I think this was the last one. So this one came about more recently under the Trump administration. And we've made the point many times, like, what about a synagogue? What about a mosque? Like, what would the left-wing media do if this was happening there? And we didn't hear much about this one. And the Trump DOJ didn't bring criminal charges on this one, but they did bring a civil complaint. And even the civil complaint took some time for this to materialize. So, for example, if we go to the complaint, this was the United States of America versus the Palestine people on a bunch of Jane Does, John Does. And it's a civil complaint. But they say back November 13, 2024, there were worshipers outside a synagogue and designated for communal prayer, all the things, the FACE Act. And when did this get filed? Yeah. All right. So look, so again, it takes a while. November 13th, 2024. This is 9/29/2025. So almost a year, 10 months later before they actually got around to bringing the civil complaint. So years for the Biden people, like almost a year for a civil complaint in this case. And now we've already got charges like in 5 days. So I think there's credit due for that. Like, this was done very quickly, very aggressively, and we appreciate that. And so, we can often say, well, why did the James Comey case get dismissed? And why did Letitia James and her case get dismissed? And have some irritable, kind of critiques and criticisms constructively about all of that. Stuff like this, you have to just turn around and say, damn, well done. Now, of course, they're still moving forward with Don Lemon and I'm sure many others, but they're turning the crank and it is working. So Sean Hannity had on Kash Patel last night, or I think 2 days ago. And here's what Kash had to say about these subpoenas that are also flying, because Tim Walz is getting them. And we know Jacob Frey, and I think even Keith Ellison, they've all gotten subpoenaed and they're all under intense investigation. Here's what Kash Patel had to say.
You have subpoenas out. It's not rocket science. Investigations are done by acquiring records. Investigations are then furthered by putting witnesses in the grand jury and making a presentment for a case, which our partners at the Department of Justice and the Attorney General will do in any case. But let's make one thing absolutely crystal clear. Under President Trump's leadership, he has supplied law enforcement the resources they need to protect our American communities. He has also given us the mandate to enforce the law. And the law is simply this: no one, elected official, private citizen or otherwise, gets to impede and obstruct a law enforcement investigation. No one. And this FBI is committed to working with our interagency and our Department of Justice partners under President Trump's mandate to make sure Minnesota and every other city across this country is safe. And that's why we're having the record year that we're having under President Trump's brilliant leadership.
All right. So Kash and the team all celebrating. And I think that this was a good win. I mean, this was a good deliverable, because if they could get away with this and continue to do this with impunity, I think it would cause a real reaction. And the longer that there was inaction, the more likelihood that that reaction would continue to fester. But turning around, delivering justice rapidly, I think was a job well done. And so hats off to them. Much faster than anything that we saw from Joe Biden in the FACE Act context. And I'm sure there will be more to come. They have unleashed forces all around Minnesota, and we'll be here to continue to cover it. Thanks for subscribing, liking this video, and joining as we do. All right, now, I wanted to see if anybody has seen the actual charging documents come out. I don't think we've seen them yet. So the arrest just happened today. They'll probably be brought in, booked, and processed tonight, and then we'll start to see the actual charging docs come out. But, yeah, not everything. But if you do see them, if they break right now or something, let's get them while they're fresh out of the oven. You know how much we like those materials. So anything new drops, let me know and we'll get into it. But let's turn our attention to Jack Smith because, Jack Smith got absolutely taken today, and it was pretty good stuff. Here is what we've got. Trump came out and said Jack Smith must be prosecuted. We heard him testify all day today and lie, in our opinion, through his teeth to many of the questions proposed to him by Congress. And Trump responded. He said, based on his testimony today, there is no question that deranged Jack Smith should be prosecuted for his actions. He destroyed the lives of many innocent people, which has been his history as a prosecutor. At minimum, he committed large-scale perjury, and there needs to be consequences for those actions. He said, Jack Smith, who is deranged, is being decimated before Congress. It was over when they discussed his past failures and unfair prosecutions. He destroyed many lives under the guise of legitimacy. As we've said here, he is not a real boy. He destroyed many lives. He is a deranged animal who shouldn't be allowed to practice law. If he were a Republican, his license would be taken away from him. And far worse. Totally true. Look what they did to everybody else like Rudy and John Eastman. Hopefully, the Attorney General is looking at what he's done, including some of the crooked and corrupt witnesses that he was attempting to use in his case against me. The whole thing was a Democrat scam. A big price should be paid by them for what they have put our country through. Amen, Mr. President. And of course, this entire hearing was meant to draw out from Jack statements that could implicate him, lies that can be used to say, you just lied to Congress. And we now can charge you for your actions that don't match your conduct, your statements that don't match the actions and your conduct. And so we've got a bunch of clips here, and Jack was getting reamed. And this was a very interesting one by Gooden, starting with Jack Smith's total illegitimacy. Thank you, Carly Bondi, for clipping this. We see that Gooden was asking about one bucket of Jack's illegitimacy. We already know that Judge Cannon said you're not a real boy because you're illegally appointed. Merrick Garland went into the gutter and cobbled together all these regulations. He's like, oh, we'll take this from the FBI code. Oh, we'll take this from the prison code. Oh, we'll take this over. And he cobbled together, they call them the Reno regulations, and they just make Jack Smith like this Frankenstein's monster. Because Frankenstein isn't the monster. And cobble it together, and they just create this creature that walks around and indicts everybody in the middle of an election. And then the Democrats like, wow, he's so heroic. Look at his foot-long Subway sandwich. And now the whole other concern that has been brought up here many times by some amazing people, including Doc Master Elliott, shout out, said that Jack Smith's oath was illegitimate. He never was properly even sworn in. And it finally came out today when Gooden got to ask him about this. Here's how it went down.
I don't recall the specifics of it. I know I was sworn in. I don't recall the specifics of how that was done.
You don't remember who swore you in?
I don't.
Would you agree that taking the oath of office is a legal requirement for the job that you had?
I've taken oaths of office regularly. I haven't researched whether it's required or not, but I have done that, I think, in every government case.
It is required.
Yeah, it is required. And you know what's so curious about this is that when there's just a slight technicality with Lindsay Halligan, or when there's an Alina Abba problem or a Bill Esseley problem, judges will raise it sua sponte. They'll drag it up on their own. We just read filings from another judge who said, Lindsay, you have to be thrown off this case because I don't like your status. In other words, judges are measuring internally in their brains the qualifications of Trump's U.S. attorneys. But Merrick Garland appointed Jack Smith illegitimately, didn't even swear him in appropriately, not even under any statutorial legitimacy at all, and then unleashes hell on his political opponents and says he can go do whatever the hell he wants, and judges everywhere are like, well, no one's above the law. And we had to deal with that for years. And Jack knew what he was doing. He's not an idiot. Okay, Merrick Garland did too, Lisa Monaco. They all knew what they were doing. They were in on it. And how do we know that? Because now the judges have flipped. They were all assisting him. They were helping him row in the same direction. Now, when Trump and the DOJ try to do anything about it, Trump's rowing upstream because all the judges are pushing back. So here's more.
I heard earlier today were atypical, irregular, no proper procedure. Yet in your opening statement, you said that we followed Justice Department policies, and I would assume you meant the law as well. It strikes me as odd that you don't remember who swore you in, how you were sworn in. It's pretty significant. We all get sworn in here, and I remember every day. You don't remember who swore you in.
I don't remember the details of it as I sit here today.
But you did take the oath of office before you got rolling.
I think my recollection is it was when I was appointed.
It was when. It strikes me as odd that Attorney General Garland had you retake the oath of office on the 14th of September of the following year. Why did he make you do that?
As I sit here right now, I do not recall. I know that there is the oath of office that I signed. I believe it was on the 18th, the day that I was appointed. And I know the department had me do a second one. I don't know the particulars of why they asked me to do it again, but I know
you signed it on the 20th of November 22nd, November 2022, but there was no witness, which, I mean, you have to agree it's a little odd. If there's no witness saying that you took the oath of office, it would maybe make someone like me question whether or not you were legitimately doing the job until you finally took the oath of office. It sounds like the Attorney General had the same question and thought, oh shit, we got to have him sign this on the 14th day of September of the following year. So why did you take the oath of office again on the 14th of September of the following year when you say you took the office in November of 2022? Why'd you need to do it twice?
My recollection is that I took the oath of office, as you said, it was the 18th or the 20th, and felt I was under the oath of office. I believe, if you have it in front of you, I think I signed an oath.
You signed it, but there was no witness. There was supposed to be either notarized or a witness, and apparently Attorney General Garland thought it was significant enough
that you had to do it again. All right, I got to find the rest of that clip. I can't believe it just cut right there. All right, so we'll find the rest of that. But Jim Jordan also was lacing in to Jack Smith today, and here is what he had to say, courtesy
well, which one was the official
Congress.
Which one counted? I think that's what the gentleman's asking.
I understood myself to have taken the oath of office when I assumed the job.
How much money did you? Okay, how much money did you spend in the investigating President Trump? How much money did your office spend?
I do not recall as I sit here now, but I know that pursuant to, I believe it's the special counsel regulations, reports were issued each 6 months detailing how much.
We gathered at $35 million. And what I want to know is how much of that $35 million of taxpayer money did you give to confidential human sources? We know you gave $20,000 to someone. It just got reported last week.
Come on,
How
Jack.
much more money did you pay confidential people we don't know about, with American tax money going after the guy we elected president?
My recollection regards the $20,000, which was not a payment from me. It was me approving a payment by the FBI to a confidential human source who was reviewing video and photographic.
Who's the source?
Yeah, who was that?
I do not know the identity of the source.
How many other payments went to this source or other sources?
And that's pretty important to know. Are they just paying some crackhead to just make up evidence that we don't know anything about the origination of it, and then using that as a pretext to go get their warrants and a bunch of other things, which they've done before? They used Hillary Clinton's campaign dossier that was rigged up by Christopher Steele and shoved to Mark Elias and his law firm as a pretext to open up an entire investigation into the Trump campaign. Okay, they just make it up and then they use it. So, and then they covered it up with John Brennan and the whole 2000, whatever that was, 17 ICA. It was ridiculous. So, yeah, who is this source? Can we figure that out? Can Congress get answers on that for us?
As I sit here, I do not know the answer to that question. My role as special counsel,
$35 million, and you're giving money to people the country doesn't know who they are, and
Nope.
you're giving their hard-earned money to these folks? The main question I have, too, with this is, why'd you have to do it? You subpoenaed bank records from the RNC, phone records from members of Congress.
There's no evidence.
You got subpoenas for bank records for people sitting right down the front row. Why did you have to pay people for information when you could subpoena them and get it?
Time has expired.
Time has expired. You can answer the question, though. Country'd like to know why you had to do it.
My recollection and understanding is the payment, the $20,000 that I approved, was for a confidential human source to assist in the review of video and photographic evidence showing people who were attacking the Capitol, attacking police officers, obstructing the proceeding, and seeing if we could prove that some of those people had come directly.
That wasn't my question, but my time has expired.
All right, so let's go back to Gooden because he has his clip. He posted it over here. He said, in November 2022, Jack was sworn in as special counsel. Then 11 months later, Garland administered a second oath. Was Jack an illegitimate prosecutor during those first 11 months? And what was he doing during those first 11 months? Here's the other half of that clip.
You signed it on the 20th of November 22nd, November 2022, but there was no witness, which, I mean, you have to agree it's a little odd. If there's no witness saying that you took the oath of office, it would maybe make someone like me question whether or not you were legitimately doing the job until you finally took the oath of office. It sounds like the Attorney General had the same question and thought, oh, shit, we got to have him sign this on the 14th day of September of the following year. So why did you take the oath of office again on the 14th of September of the following year when you say you took the office in November of 2022? Why'd you need to do it twice?
My recollection is that I took the oath of office, as you said, it was the 18th or the 20th, and felt I was under the oath of office. I believe, if you have it in front of you, I think I signed an oath.
You signed it, but there was no witness. There was supposed to be either notarized or a witness, and apparently Attorney General Garland thought it was significant enough to have you do another oath 11 months later. That's strange, right?
I don't know why they asked me to sign it again. I don't recall ever discussing this issue with Attorney General Garland.
All right, so never talk to Garland about it. Yeah, Garland's just like, don't ask any questions. Everything you did for 11 months was completely illegal. So now we need you to sign this again and just like, don't tell anybody about it. Then you can indict him. So November, now here's another good question. Yeah, so 11 months later, he was sworn in. Trump was indicted, right? June 8th, 2023 for mishandling classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. June 8th, 2023. So 11 months later, November 22. Did the indictments come? August also was the J6 case. So June and August 2023. In other words, Jack's sworn in, indicts the president, retakes his oath because it was illegal. The indictments were basically illegal. He never even took his oath appropriately. And that entire time, they may have known it, and then Garland discovers it. He's like, I need you to come in here and sign this after the fact, after the indictments have already been dropped. We need to double check that timeline, but I think that's the implication of this, which is completely insane. So we've got more. Now, Brandon Gill was also lacing into him. We got a full 5 minutes of him coming up, but the subcommittee on J6 also has questions for him. They say, since Christopher Wray and his numerous obfuscations before Congress regarding the FBI and our involvement in J6, we have learned the FBI had paid CHSs on J6 and they entered the Capitol. FBI paid sedition hunters $150,000 to identify individuals on J6. The FBI deployed 274 agents to the Capitol after it was breached, and many of them were in, MAGA gear. So it is becoming clear that Wray's FBI had considerable involvement before and during the events on January 6th. More to come. But they just blamed Trump on it, right? It was the setup to take him out. It was the setup to make sure that there was not an actual counting of the votes or an actual debate about the counting of the votes on January 6th. And they needed leverage over the president so that they could make sure that he didn't do anything crazy on the way out, like declassify something problematic or, release a bunch of files about something that the senators didn't want him to release. So the Senate then said, well, we'll impeach your booty if you do these things. And they had leverage on him on the way out. He didn't want to get impeached because he wanted to run again. So he played nice on the way out. But of course, the FBI was all over the place. Proud Boys in their trial, they're like, we got 50 people we can talk about from Homeland Security in our own case. Meanwhile, there were like 5 Proud Boys, like outnumbered 10-1. It was ridiculous. So Select Committee is also outposting today. And now Brandon Gill goes into this. He says, when you were investigating all of this, you literally said that Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker of the House of Representatives in the United States of America, one of the most powerful people on the planet, like third in line to the presidency, essentially, is going to be a flight risk. Jack Smith was such an unhinged, uncontrolled lunatic maniac that he got a subpoena for McCarthy's records. Now, we hear every day about Trump's retribution and all this stuff. They've not done anything remotely close to this. Not that we know of. Maybe they should. But they haven't, as far as we know. They're even indicting Comey on old, obstruction charges to Congress and stuff like that. They haven't unleashed an illegitimate, illegally appointed, illegally oathed special counsel to just run roughshod over everybody. And maybe they'll get the hint, and maybe they'll do that soon. But here's Jack now getting into it with Brandon Gill, who did a great job today.
Mr. Smith, in January of 2023, did you subpoena then Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy's toll records?
Yes, sir, we did.
Yes, you did. And the subpoena covered the time period between November 2020 and January 2021. Is that right?
I'm sorry, sir. Could you say that again?
We're not going to delay like this. The subpoena covered the time period between November of 2020 and January 2021. How many days after Kevin McCarthy was sworn in as Speaker did you subpoena his records?
I don't recall, but those two things had nothing to do with one.
It was 16 days after becoming the highest ranking Republican in the House of Representatives. You subpoenaed his toll records. Do you agree that that might reasonably be considered a violation of the speech or debate clause?
I do not, and I want to be clear that the toll records...
You were collecting months' worth of phone data on the Republican Speaker of the House, the leader of the opposition, right after he got sworn in as Speaker, all around the time of a major vote. That sounds like a flagrant violation of the speech or debate clause to me, and I think most people agree with me. And Speaker McCarthy had no recourse, did he? Because you issued a non-disclosure order ensuring that neither he nor any of the American people knew about these subpoenas. Is that right?
The toll record, the non-content toll record subpoenas, we did secure non-disclosure orders for those subpoenas.
You did. And let me ask you, Mr. Smith, at the time you secured those non-disclosure orders, was Speaker McCarthy a flight risk?
The non-disclosure order was based on concerns about...
Was Speaker McCarthy a flight risk?
He was not.
He was not. Then why did your non-disclosure order refer to him as a flight risk? It says right here, the court finds reasonable grounds to believe that such disclosure will result in flight from prosecution.
Sir, when securing a non-disclosure order, the risks don't have to be associated.
You think that the Speaker of the House is a flight risk?
The question?
No, this is not your time. This is my time. You think the Speaker of the House is a flight risk? You think he's going to hop on a plane and leave the country?
No, what I was trying to explain is with respect to a non-disclosure order, the risks aren't necessarily associated with the subscriber to the phone. They're the risks to the investigation.
I think that you were using, this was clearly in reference to Speaker McCarthy, and you were using clearly false information to secure a non-disclosure order to hide from Speaker McCarthy and from the American people the fact that you were spying on his toll records. But I've got more, so let's move on. In May of 2023, you also issued subpoenas for toll records of 9 U.S. senators and an additional representative. Is that right?
In May of 23, we did issue.
You did, and there were non-disclosure orders in conjunction with those subpoenas as well, right?
That's correct, consistent with department policy and the law.
So again, nobody would know what you were doing. The senators would, and the representatives would, and the American people wouldn't know what you were doing. Is that right?
The toll records that we secured and the non-disclosure orders were consistent with policy and consistent.
And you knew whenever you were doing that there was a risk you were violating the speech or debate clause. Is that right?
The toll record subpoenas that we secured were with the concurrence of the public integrity.
Your own analysis says that you knew there was a risk you were violating the speech or debate clause. I have it right here. This is an email from John Keller at Public Integrity Section to your team.
Let's go.
As you are aware, quote, as you are aware, there is some litigation risk regarding whether compelled disclosure of toll records of a member's legislative calls violates the speech or debate clause in the D.C. Circuit. That's from your own analysis right there. So you did know, didn't you?
Sir, with respect to the item you just put up on the screen, the last sentence states...
we're going to get to the last sentence.
Okay.
We're going to get to the last sentence. And you cite case law in here, quote, the bar on compelled disclosure is absolute. Is that right? Or do you think that you didn't have to abide by that precedent?
To be clear, this statement is not from my office. This is the statement of the public.
This is your justification for those subpoenas and NDOs that you ordered. This was part of your analysis. It's a cursory analysis. I think it's worth noting. But let's get to that last sentence then. Quote, given my understanding of the low likelihood that any of the members listed below would be charged, the litigation risk should be minimal here. In other words, you're using a novel legal theory, which you knew was novel, has never been tested by any court. You're not charging any of these members. Nobody's going to know about it because you issued NDOs. Nobody's going to sue about it, so sue this. So who cares? We're going to do it anyways.
Yep, and win the election.
We walked all over the Constitution throughout this entire process.
Mr. Chairman, the gentleman's time's expired.
On members of Congress, and you know it. It's absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, and the Democrats were on pins and needles this entire hearing, just springing out like jokers out of a jack-in-the-box. Time's expired, introducing all these stupid articles. But that was epic testimony. And we're waiting for, of course, more of these documents to come out to show what a liar Jack Smith is and what they were really up to. They tried to frame this whole thing as a legitimate prosecution, but it was a full-blown, completely unfettered attack on all of their political enemies, going after senators, going after the Speaker of the House with non-disclosure orders. And there's other statutes on the book, by the way, that say that you've got to notify the Senate Sergeant-at-Arms or somebody in the House when you're doing something like that. And they changed the DOJ policy after the fact. And like, that was Lisa Monaco. She's like, oh, crap. You went after senators? Like, well, we didn't say we couldn't. Doesn't mean you should, but the law didn't say you couldn't. And so they went and did it. Not the law, the DOJ policy, right? In other words, they were setting the rules for themselves. Then the policy changed and they're not allowed to do that anymore because it's illegal. And Jack did it anyways because he thought, man, as long as you can get this evidence and get a conviction, you're going to win. You're going to seize power for perpetuity and no one can do anything about it. So it was all hands on deck. They lost. They tried and failed. And now repercussions are coming. So here's another video the House Judiciary posted today. They said, who is Jack Smith? Just watch this and let's see. There's probably a bunch of music in here. Let's listen.
Appointing a special counsel at this time is the right thing to do. The extraordinary circumstances presented here demand it. Mr. Smith is the right choice to complete these matters in an even-handed and urgent manner.
Garland's announcement comes just days after Trump officially declared his 2024 bid for the White House.
Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with felony violations of our national security laws, as well as participating and a conspiracy to obstruct justice.
The FBI under the Biden administration questioned whether it had established probable cause to search President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence in 2022, but moved forward with the raid anyway after pressure from senior Justice Department officials.
Well, prosecutors aren't supposed to tamper with evidence, and it looks like that's what he did. He changed the sequence of the documents that he seized from Mar-a-Lago.
Special counsel investigating former President Trump wants a judge to give what's essentially a limited gag order against Mr. Trump in his election interference case.
Did you identify any violations of 18 U.S.C. 1512?
We did not bring any charges.
And did you allege that he violated any terms of his release?
We did not.
You did hear the Attorney General specifically cite why he is deciding to take what he called this extraordinary step, and that is because Donald Trump is now a 2024 candidate.
I thought the trial date that we proposed, given the case, given the discovery, was reasonable, yes.
The FBI did run surveillance on Pennsylvania Representative Scott Perry before seizing his cell phone as part of the Arctic frost probe.
Tonight, Jack Smith, the former special counsel, now under investigation himself. Caught in writing Jack Smith's actions were, quote, nothing more than a tool for the Biden and Harris campaigns.
That's Jack Smith, and now we learn that dozens of members of Congress, hundreds of other Americans were spied on when they went and got their phone records. Some people, like myself, up to 2.5 years of their phone records. Who they called, who called them, when they called them, how long the call lasted, and if you initiated that call, they knew where you were at when you made the call.
When you sought these non-disclosure orders, the judge didn't know it was a member of Congress. Is that correct?
I don't think we identified that because I don't think that was department policy at the time.
So who should be held accountable for answering these questions?
Well, I think who should be accountable for this is Donald Trump.
Nice video there from the House Judiciary GOP chronicling the rise and hopefully the very heavy downfall of Jack Smith. But there was another exchange today with Rep. Russell Fry talking about how Jack Smith and his timeline was all such a scam. And we covered this at length here. Thank you to those who joined us for that. It's saga. But the Judge Chutkan battle. Remember when we were screeching about highlighter girl Molly Gaston, who was over there at the DOJ, who was releasing the discovery to the tune of millions of pages. And Trump's defense was saying, we're going to need like 5 years to review all this. And they gave a comparison case. They said the only other case that we could find that had this much evidence, in other words, the DOJ was burying Trump's defense in evidence and demanding that they could accelerate the trial because they needed the trial to happen before the election. So there's all this evidence, but you can't read it. And the prosecutors highlighted things for you and they organized it like in a binder and they told you where all the good evidence is. And so the defense didn't need to read any evidence. It was ridiculous. We were raging about this. Actually really disappointed in many defense attorneys out there who couldn't even set aside the partisan politics to say this is ridiculous. All right, this is a totally egregious way to prosecute a case. But Chutkan was totally fine with it and enabled it, allowed it to happen. The only comparison case that matched that was like Visa versus Walmart. It was like they had like 7 million pages of materials. It took them 5 years to litigate it. Jack Smith had like 14 million pages of documents and they wanted to litigate it in 9 months. It was insane. Visa versus Walmart. Okay, just think about that. Think about the spreadsheets. Oh gosh. So here is a recreation of that now. He's Russell Fry is asking Jack about this. You think that's fair? You think that's due process of law? All the Democrats screaming about illegal aliens and their due process, none of them gave a rip about what happened to an American citizen, because in this case, it was Trump. They didn't care.
You asked for a trial date when?
I don't recall as I sit here right now.
January 2024, does that sound about right?
That sounds about right.
Okay, so after the indictment, you in August, you asked for a January trial date. That's like 5 months? 5 months?
Crazy.
How much evidence did you have? Millions of pages?
As I sit here right now, I don't recall the exact.
I think in your testimony, they talked about a number, 13 million pages.
Yeah, I said 14.
Is that a ballpark accurate number?
I think that was the question asked of me, and as I sit here, I don't have an accurate number for
So let's just assume that that's true, right? Because you had a bunch of stuff. You had $50 million that you blew through the Treasury on a trial that went nowhere. How many pages per day is that? 100,000? That sound about right?
Why?
What if we break that down per hour? It's 4,166 per minute is 70 pages. You like to read, sir? You like to read?
I do.
Do you read 70 pages a minute?
I do not.
I mean, that would be remarkable. So how do you prepare for a trial in 5 months if you're asking the defense counsel to read 70 pages a minute?
Yeah.
How do you do that and prepare a defense and look at all the witness testimony and video evidence that you supposedly had? How do you do that? You know what's shocking to me, and I think that one of the most egregious aspects of this case, Mr. Smith, is that if you get a traffic ticket in Washington, D.C., you're not going to trial in 5 months.
No.
But you want the president, the former president of the United States, to have a trial date with 13 million pages of documents within 5 months. I think that's ridiculous. And I think that speaks exactly to what we talk about when we examine not only your record, but the things in this case that are deeply troubling. That this was not the pursuit of facts and law and letting the judge and the jury decide, that this was an exercise in it was a political hit job, timed perfectly against the president of the United States.
Yep, and they allowed it. The D.C. District Court, Judge Chutkan, enabled the whole thing. She had a slight continuance. She bumped the trial. I think it was going to be in March, and they needed it in March, and we were analyzing that, like, they can't bump it again because it's going to get too close to the election. And then all of a sudden, what happened? We went out to the Supreme Court. Presidential immunity. We said, sorry, you have to pause this whole proceeding. And they did. Chutkan tried to allow it to continue to run on, but the whole thing got paused. We went up to the Supreme Court, came back down. Trump, of course, won on that. But it was a complete attack, literally, from the DOJ in collusion with the judges, and they just all enabled it. And they did it not just to Trump. This was the same scam that was going on with all of the J6ers, all of the state-level prosecutions. These people shredded the whole concept of a presumption of innocence and due process and using your prosecutorial power only to pursue cases where there's legitimate cause. All of that was right out the window. And so shout out to Rep. Fry, man. We have been wondering about that. And Judge Chutkan said, no, the prosecutors put little tabs on the binder. And so you just know where the evidence is. You don't need to read anything else. It's like, it's contemptible. As a defense attorney, you go, what the F is this even about? Are you kidding me? So no, they weren't kidding. They did it, and they would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for the American people realizing what a scam this whole thing was. So we also see this article posted by the Judiciary. We'll read this, and then we're going to get into this breakdown, man. Oh my goodness. We've got Harriet Hageman going at it with Jack. We've got another one of Fenon, and then Fenon and Ivan Raiklin get into it. This whole thing just melts down. It's so epic. It's fun. But 12 facts about Jack Smith dropped from the Judiciary today. 1, he departs from precedent set by other special counsels by asserting a person's guilt without a jury verdict. And a bunch of other things that are very appropriate for Jack. They said, we're going to have him testify here today. And he did confirm that they've got select committee evidence that got handed over to them. He didn't do an independent investigation. He inherited the whole thing from the FBI. Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony was unreliable. It was hearsay on hearsay on hearsay. And she, in my opinion, lied about her handwriting. And Liz Cheney colluded with her to pull her away from her attorney who was duly representing her. Unethically, by the way, Liz, outside of congressional time. Now, Smith could not articulate any specific harm that was traceable to President Trump. Of course not, other than his words that they made up. And saying that he was choosing to target Trump, he needed an indictment before the election. Also confirmed that he got gag orders. He was subpoenaing congresspeople and not telling them. Went after Kev McCarthy's private toll records as well. Blamed Trump for what he had to do to prosecute him, and is just a piece of garbage. So here's Harriet Hageman asking him about some of this today on the House floor.
Committee provide you with the Cassidy Hutchinson testimony as part of the trove of documents that you received?
As I sit here now, I don't recall, but it would.
Well, you're familiar with her testimony, aren't you?
Clavicle girl.
I am. And
in fact, wouldn't you agree with me that Ms. Hutchinson's testimony, especially the most explosive allegations made, was comprised of hearsay upon hearsay upon hearsay?
Deep.
Come on, you're an attorney. Mr. Smith, you can answer the question. Of course it was hearsay. And hearsay isn't admissible in a court of law, is it? Why? Because it is inherently unreliable, and the victim or the target of a prosecution is not able to cross-examine. Isn't that correct? In fact, Mr. Smith, if you had attempted to walk into court with Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony, you would have been thrown out on your ear.
Yep.
No judge, no legitimate judge would have ever allowed the testimony of Cassidy Hutchins to be admitted in a court of law, would they?
I disagree.
Well, and then we've already talked about your record.
Mr. Chairman, the gentlelady's time has long since expired.
The time
I disagree. Oh, there's going to be a hearsay exception for what, like a present sense impression or something, or she wasn't even in the car. All right. So anyways, Jack Smith is doing the little I disagree. Harriet Hageman, shout out to her for lacing into him there about the liar Cassidy Hutchinson, again, in our opinion. But she was the star witness. Remember, the J6 committee hearings were not going so hot until they brought her out. She's like, Trump grabbed the Secret Service agent by the clavicle. Then Melania jumped out of the helicopter, landed on the roof of the car, and they were fighting to steer it back over to the Capitol to take it over. Totally ridiculous and filled with lies. But it was madness there in Congress today because we saw this guy, Michael Fenon, who is one of the January 6th Capitol Hill Police Backstreet Boys, I think is what they are. All four of these dudes here. We've called them the Spice Girls too, so you can pick your pop band. But they were there. Fenon, that big dude, and they were very like multicultural when they were assembling them. They're like, all right, we need a white guy. We need a white guy. We need like the bad boy with the tats. Kate got him. We got the rep of the Latinx. And we got a black man. So the Backstreet Boys are in session now. And they can get out there and propagandize for Liz Cheney and Benny Thompson. And here is what went down today. So we see that Trey Niels is having a conversation, and under his breath, we're going to have a lot of F-bombs coming up. So if you got children around, let's mute this because these Backstreet cops are unhinged, as we're about to find out. And we have questions about their sanity based on behavior like this. And maybe they were the ones who were instigating the violence on January 6th because they can't even keep their composure in the House of Congress, for crying out loud. Basically insurrecting the whole proceeding, this guy. No respect at all. Here's what went down.
I would like to quickly address the police officers of January 6th. Mr. Dunn, Mr. Fenon, Mr. Gonell, Mr. Hodges. I'm a member of the new select committee to actually examine what happened that day. And I can tell you, gentlemen, that the fault does not lie with Donald Trump. It lies with Yogananda Pittman and the U.S. Capitol leadership team. We know they had the intelligence and there was...
Oh, did you hear that? That's an insurrection of decorum in Congress. And it was pretty obvious there, idiot. We could all hear it because you said it. It didn't even sound like a cough. So he just did that, and it goes on.
There's going to be a high propensity for violence that day. Claim my time, yeah.
You will be in order. The time belongs to the gentleman from Texas. We've had some disruptions already. We don't need that. Let the gentleman may continue.
We know the Capitol leadership team, specifically Yogananda Pittman, had the intelligence, and there was going to be a high propensity for violence that day.
All right, so Fenon, totally unhinged, can't even sit there like a man without just bursting out in a temper tantrum. F yourself, F yourself. All right, so that's the type of mental faculty that you want of a police officer who's going to be protecting the Capitol on that day. Now, it gets way worse than this. Shout out to Ivan Raiklin. We had the opportunity to meet him in person the last time we were out in D.C. He goes to these hearings, and I've got two clips of this, okay? One from the C-SPAN angle, so the background, and then we're going to turn the camera around and we're going to go watch this from Ivan Raiklin's view. So you can get both angles on this and we can piece together what went down, zoomed out and zoomed in. And it was a doozy. And Ivan Raiklin is a very nice gentleman. I got to meet him, very reasonable person. You know, asks hard questions and likes to directly approach you with those questions. But in this case, as you can see, nothing but a nice, friendly handshake. Mr. Fenon, can't we just let bygones be bygones and have a pleasant conversation about what's happening here?
Every single time I communicate with you, I am always professional with you. Well, I'm not. It requires other people to contain their Tourette's.
All right, so watch everybody circle up.
Okay? I'll have a trade of this fucking country. Why are you so spasmodic? My spasmodic? Absolutely. Look behind me. Why should I? I'm communicating with you. Right? Look at your face. Let's have a seat. Let's have a seat. Trust me, I'm using a lot of shit. See how many people are constraining you? Look at me. Total control over my mind and body.
Hey, the meeting will be in order.
Mr. Chairman, will you?
All right.
No shame.
Sir. Meeting will be in order.
Treating these people that way.
This guy is threatening my family.
Members of the audience.
My children.
Members of the audience will please sit down or remove themselves from the committee room.
Rape my children, you sick bastard. Rape my children.
Sit down, please.
Now he's yelling at that cop, don't touch me. Don't touch me. Man, he has a temper problem, you know? He just kind of spins out. Almost like when somebody says something to him, he just kind of snaps and like gets violent. Weird. Huh. Wonder if that's happened before with him. So as he leaves, the Democrats kind of cheer him out. It's like, yeah, we love him. That's our guy. Amazing.
Thank you, Officer Fenon.
Yeah, thank you for screaming and losing your cool like a lunatic right in the middle of our ceremony. They clap for their insurrectionist, and there's, you know, decorum rules and all sorts of things. They don't really care if he breaks them. But okay, that was one angle. Now you might be saying, Rob, what was Ivan doing? Was he like screaming profanities at him? Was he getting very aggressive with him? What's going on? Not at all. Not even a little bit. Was just saying, hi, Mr. Fenon, I'd like to have a conversation with you. And so Ivan Raiklin, he's over on X. Make sure you give him a follow. We're going to repost this on the top of our timeline so you can find it right easily over there. But he said, who thinks I should sue Mr. Fenon for defamation? I like the sound of it. Let's see what this clip looks like. And you can see we've got Ivan right here at the bottom and this whole exchange with Fenon that went down.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Ivan Raiklin.
Fuck yourself.
Whoa.
Why do you have to swear at me?
What's that?
Why do you have to swear at me?
Oh, dude, don't pretend like we're not mortal enemies. Go fuck yourself.
Well, why do you have to lose your cool like that?
I'm not
I've
losing
been
my cool.
always professional
Grab.
with you.
I'm not losing my cool.
Every
Fuck
single
yourself.
time I communicate
Fuck
with you,
yourself. You're a
I
traitor to
am
this
always
country. Fuck
professional
yourself.
with you.
Well, I'm
and it
not.
requires
Fuck
other
yourself.
people to contain your Tourette's syndrome. Okay?
Stop. Like they're holding him, the other cops.
You threatened my family and you threatened my
Oh,
life.
have
You're
I?
a traitor to this fucking country.
Why are
Go
you
fuck
so
yourself.
spasmodic?
Am I spasmodic?
Absolutely.
Fucking do
Look
something.
behind you.
Do something.
Why should I? I'm communicating with you. I'm trying to calm you down.
Posting up.
Right?
Puffing up. Cops grabbing him now.
Let's have a talk. You can't even be a man.
Trust me,
and
I'm
tone
using
it.
a lot
You
of
see how
restraint
many
right
people are constraining you?
Come get me.
Look at me. Total control over my mind and body.
Total control.
Total control over my mind and body, and I'm totally dominating you right now.
Sir,
Totally dominating you right now.
sir, let's step aside.
I'm not.
This guy
I'm
is
just
threatened
standing
my family, threatened my
I'm just
children,
standing here.
threatened to rape my children.
What?
Oh,
Rape
really
my
now?
children, you sick
Look at
bastard.
him.
Rape my children.
More people need to contain him because I'm completely calm. calm, sir. Always calm. Listen.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen Ivan say that he, was going to do any of those things that Psycho Fenon was alleging. And so, yeah, maybe you should sue him for defamation for saying that you said those things, because those are pretty horrific things, obviously. So the point of sharing this is that this guy was bandied about as like the calm, collected, heroic January 6th police officer who was definitely legitimate, not a psychopathic, hysterical freak show. And they could have told us that he had a temper problem and maybe belongs in anger management, but maybe it was his actions and other actions of people like Shawnee Kirkhoff, who were up on the terrace shooting the protesters in the face with projectiles. Did he do that to protesters? Some protesters are like, hi, I'm here to peacefully, patriotically protest. And he's like, you're raping my kids. You're like, well, just chill out, you psycho. So lots of questions about his mental faculties and what should Ivan Raiklin do from here. We'll have to see. But shout out to Ivan for instigating that response by being there and existing and wanting to shake his hand. So Troy Niels got that one. We saw the confrontation that occurred over there. And this is just amazing. So apparently Jack Frost and the Arctic Frost guys, this is not a pornographic image. It's not supposed to be. This is an FBI 3D printed sex toy. I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is. But Kash Patel posted it, so I'm sharing it with you. So he says, people ask why I said the old FBI was a diseased temple. Is it because of what they did with this? Yeah, that makes sense. Says, this is what corruption looks like when it thinks no one is watching. Says, a self-awarded trophy celebrating Arctic Frost made by FBI officials. I disbanded CR-15 and removed the corrupt actors involved. So when legacy media cries that President Trump's FBI fired people and made sweeping changes, I have one response. You're damn right we did. So this is a 3D printed object, I think, that the FBI made for themselves. And like all Jack Smith's team and all the prosecutors were like, hey, Jay Brat, I have a present for you. I have a trophy that I'd like to give you. I'd like to come over tonight and give it to you. It is diseased. Just makes you think the whole thing, they did a bunch of probes over there. They were just probing each other all night, giving each other trophies and launching subpoenas and indictments and criminal probes constantly. It's real. It's real. It's from Kash Patel. I'm not joking. So basically what I'm saying is I think the FBI put this thing up their butts for a long time. Long story short, I think that's what's happening. So, all right, thank you, Kash, for that. And, this was a good post because I think he's making the same argument. Okay. It's a diseased temple, like your butt, when no one is watching, like when you probably would put stuff up there, a self-awarded trophy made by the FBI for the FBI. Wow. All right. So we spent enough time on that, but that's what's going on over there. So Chip Roy, he was also out saying Jack Smith continued all of this knowing he shouldn't have done it. And since he did that, there's indicia of intent and he needs to be held accountable for this, courtesy of Chip Roy.
Much out of his lanes he is. He was abusing his authority. He was using D.C. to do his dirty work and running all of his operations through here to get subpoenas and do the work through Boasberg and through Beryl Howell. And then he magically moves down to South Florida to go down there. Then he gets his entire operation slapped down by a federal judge last summer, but he continued, or in 2024, and then he continues to operate and sign materials as a special prosecutor, even though he was deemed inappropriate. So this guy's been abusing authority and we need to expose it.
What kind of crime is that? If you sign federal papers and you're already pulled from that position?
Well, this is all of the stuff that we need to get into further tomorrow. We need to look into this and understand, and he needs to go on the record about how he was continuing to operate even though he didn't have the power to do it. And this was a rogue prosecutor engaged in political activity. I think that Chairman Jordan will make this very clear at the outset of the hearing tomorrow. And look, he's going to try to hide behind smoke and mirrors to say he was doing, good work. But the fact is, this was a political exercise.
Yeah, and so that was Chip Roy yesterday, and I think we had J.D. Vance, who was also out. Svetlana got this question reminding us about this clip between JD and Sean Hannity talking about Arctic frost and what is going to be coming out of this, right? So Jack Smith inherited Arctic frost, which was Timothy Tebow's investigation into Trump. They named it Arctic frost after the oranges. And then Jack Smith came in as a special counsel because Trump was running and they needed to have an independent investigation. And then he just took all of that and ran with it. And so here's JD and Hannity talking about there's a lot more on this man that is to come. And Trump was also out, I think, in Davos or somewhere, saying that election investigations and prosecutions are going to be coming soon. Here's JD.
Last question, Arctic frost. It is getting bigger, and I talked to sources this morning. It's about to explode. And things that we thought were long lost and gone, I want to be a little cryptic, are not lost.
That's right.
And they're not gone.
That's right. Yeah, I want to be a little cryptic too, because I know that we're it's still in the early stages of this investigation. But look, Sean, I think it's one of the great scandals in American history. I think this is definitionally the Biden administration, the deep state, using the apparatus of justice to go after their political opponents. And I also think it raises a very critical issue and something that I'd encourage my Senate friends on the Republican side to wake up about, because eventually you're going to see prosecutions, not just Arctic frost related, but on a whole host of other issues. Eventually, we need certain subpoenas that have to be issued by a court. Eventually, you need local prosecutors, U.S. attorneys, to go after some of these people in a court of law. If you can't get a U.S. attorney appointed because the Democrat won't give you a blue slip, or you can't get a judge confirmed because the Democrats are gumming up the work of the Senate, Republicans have got to open up their perspective a little bit. And again, I say that some of these people are very dear friends of mine, but why do we allow the blue slip process to prevent the president from appointing a U.S. attorney? Why do we let the blue slip process make it impossible for Donald Trump to appoint a federal judge in California? If you want justice, you've got to empower the President of the United States to actually appoint the officers of justice all over the country. The Democrats are stalling that. And we're going to wake up in a couple of years, if we don't have more U.S. attorneys approved, if we don't have more judges approved, we're going to wake up in a couple of years and realize that we've done a lot of great work at the Trump administration, but justice is not being meted out as it should be because we don't have the people on the ground. Right. That is a big problem. And I know that's somewhat unrelated to Arctic frost, but it actually is related to Arctic frost, because you cannot get the justice for the people who are targeted by the Biden administration unless we've got good people, especially in these U.S. attorneys' offices. And that's something, Sean, we got to pay attention to over the next year.
It's sad because the statute of limitations. I make the argument all the time that from the moment he and Melania came down that escalator, they've been out to destroy him and using the very 100%. Heavy arm, deep powers, deep state to do it, and
spying on him, prosecuting him, investigating senators, congressmen who are just aligned with the President of the United States. You're right. Some of this stuff is going to get covered by statute of limitations. Some of this stuff, Sean, some of this stuff we can and we should prosecute. And I'm just telling you, this is going to be a real problem. And the people who watch your show are going to get really pissed at Senate Republicans, excuse my language, if we don't have the U.S. attorneys on the ground to actually achieve justice. People are going to get angry, and rightfully so.
Yes, and that's why we need Chuck Grassley to stop playing handsy with the Democrats and stop the blue slip nonsense so that nominees can come out of the Judiciary Committee and go to the floor. We can vote them in so that we can have justice. And the Democrats have been scamming us on judges forever. They scammed us this last election. They said, we'll give you a bunch of Court of Appeals judges in exchange for district court judges. Stupid Mitch McConnell and the Republicans said, sure, here you go, Joe Biden. Filled up a bunch of slots, expecting the Court of Appeals judges to leave. Then as soon as Trump won, all of the Court of Appeals judges rescinded their resignations and their retirements, of course. And so now we're stuck with both of them on both ends. So Jack Smith called out today. Of course, there'll be a lot more analysis on his testimony. to see if there were any out and out lies to Congress and whether this can lead to criminal consequences and a further investigation. But JD says they're looking into it. And we know that there's rumors that there's grand juries being impaneled in Florida. Maybe that's a grand conspiracy case. And so we'll be here to keep our eyes on this one, my friends. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right. What a beautiful day it is. We love some new arrests, including this one. Nekima Levy Armstrong, now in federal custody. We're waiting for the actual charging docs to drop. I was looking around as we were watching some of those clips. I've not seen them drop, but they'll be here tomorrow, I'm sure. And so we'll go through them. Thank you for coming back and joining as we do. They should be delicious. And we should have 3 of them tomorrow, including for this one. Oh, and I forgot to play this clip. Yeah, here's her, the arrest record.
We'll bring her
the arrest video.
Stand off to the side. I know this only because I just did it once.
Double cuffs, yeah, double. Definitely.
Lock
All right.
in there.
So she's out now. She's also in federal custody. Should have those charging documents tomorrow. And then we'll see more from, not her, this guy. We'll take a look at his charging documents as well. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So thanks for coming back tomorrow. And we'll get into that. But we talked about the arrest today. We talked and asked why Don Lemon has not been indicted. And apparently it might be because the judge who had to rule on it is married to somebody who works for Keith Ellison. And Keith Ellison was just on Don Lemon's podcast playing patty cake with him about why he should not be charged. So maybe the judge is in alignment with his wife who works for Keith Ellison. We don't know. But more will come down, I'm sure. And we heard from Kash and others that they're just warming up. They're all there on scene. We learned about the judge a little bit. We learned about the wife, what we know about her, Caitlin Miko, over at the AAG position there in Minnesota. And the judge is just the magistrate judge. So we'll see what else comes down the pike. Jacob Frey's crying about this, of course. Release Nekima. Todd says no. Bondi said no. And CNN can't even look you in the eye when they're lying to your face, because that's how pathetic they are, as they're asking Nekima to explain her behavior while she's lying through her teeth as the video plays showing the exact opposite of everything that she said. We did a brief bit on the other FACE acts that have been brought before and really giving credit, I think, to the DOJ and to the FBI for making these arrests happen so quickly, because prior FACE Act violations, and we don't know exactly what the charges are, so presuming they are what we think they are, this happened quickly. The Bidens, for example, took several years to bring charges in prior cases. We looked at a couple examples of that just for the sole purpose of showing the timeline and how long these things take. Kash was out talking about subpoenas. Then we turned our attention to Jack Smith. Great conversation about Jack's oath and how he was also illegitimate and probably got indictments while during the time period where he was not even lawfully in office under an oath, validly oathed into office. Subcommittee was out today. Brandon Gill crushed Trump saying this guy deserves to be prosecuted based on his many lies. Had a fun video there. Learned about the case timeline and how quickly Jack tried to bring the case, like 6 months, 9 months, whatever it was, for 13 million pages of documents. Completely ridiculous. Hageman, shout out. Fenon lost his cool today. And Ivan Raiklin sat there. And what was so fun about Ivan Raiklin's clip is he said, I'm in total control of body, mind, and spirit. As Fenon was having a very difficult time. So he should just go meditate tonight and relax. So we heard from that. He also can't even, he's, dropping F-bombs. Guy's a total lunatic. They made him like the centerpiece of their Backstreet Boys. Oh, and the FBI is 3D printing terribly, by the way. Sex toys, I think is all it can be described as. So we heard that. We also saw JD Vance was talking about this. And it's been a great stream, my friends. Happy arrest day. And thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing and liking this video on the way out, too. We'll love you forever if you do that. Thank you. And let's see who's here and joining us on the stream. What a beautiful day it has been, indeed. Who is here? What do we got going on and cooking? Yeah. So, hey, Alan Harkin, man. What a nice comment. Thank you, Alan. Just came in. I think that was over on Rumble. Shout out to our friends on Rumble watching over there. Yeah, we got some great comments today. Oh, yeah. and some nice gifts and such. What a great, hey, thank you guys for all these. Amazing. We got a lot to talk about. Awesome. How it started versus how it's going. Exactly right. Yep. They swung at the king and they missed, and now they done goofed. Now they're hopefully going to be indicted soon for their crimes. They broke the law. If they would have played fair and square, then, you know, we wouldn't support retribution or whatever that is, because they didn't break the law, but they broke the law, so there needs to be consequences. Hey, Emperor Trajan is here. Said, if they can arrest a president, they can arrest Don Lemon. Well, they're trying to. The judge is the one who's in the way right now. Says, imagine pretending you care about the Epstein files, but don't care enough to arrest illegals who assault American moms and daughters. F this dude. Yeah, Thomas Massie just voted against funding Homeland and mass deportations. What a joke. Yeah, that's a joke. That's ridiculous. Shame on Thomas Massie if that vote is true. That's ridiculous. And we've said the same thing about the Democrats, even with the Epstein files. Like Ro Khanna's crying about victims. How hard has he cried about American girls who've been arred and murdered and thrown over bridges? I don't know. I don't see him standing outside the hills of the Capitol with a bunch of victims of parents who've lost their kids, do illegal aliens out there crying about victims. No, they don't do that at all, because they only care about their constituents. And really with the Epstein stuff, it's really just about leverage against Trump. That's all it is. Rick D. I saw this. Don Lemon has lawyered up. He's being represented by Abby Lowell. Okay, that's the same guy who represented basically every Democrat. They love this dude. And he produces some results. Sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not so good. Like he didn't do so great with Hunter. But Comey's case is gone, or I think Letitia's case is gone. He was on that one. I think he's on the Bolton case. He's on the other fired official case. He's everywhere. He's Hunter's former lawyer. Guy's something else. Abby Lowell. Rick D, what's up? Hey, Rick, getting close to 3 babies in the house. Man, good to see you, Rick D. 20 months as a membo, inching towards number 3. Good to see you, Rick D. Send in that one out of an airplane. Hey, Eat at Anton's. Rating our stream. Eat at Anton's, man. Anton's in the house. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us, and thanks for rating our stream. Welcome aboard. Cardinal O'Flanagan says, Don Lemon even stated as fact that protesting had no restrictions either on place or time. Advocating people can go anywhere they want. No private property. Well, it's just rich. It's like, so then he thinks all the J6ers were completely legitimate. So he's in favor of all the pardons, and he thinks that there was no problem there at all. Is that what he's saying? Will Crump, what's up? A magistrate judge has blocked the arrest of Don Lemon. Yeah, and his name is like Miko or whatever. Federal grand jury or another judge, Pam Bondi, enraged, must find the new judge or go to a grand jury. Yeah, we don't know what the specifics are. If the judge had a concern that wasn't addressed in the complaint or what. But I'm sure we're going to learn more very soon. Thank you for that, Will Crump. Good to see you. Hey, Dark Rogue in the house. Man, that's a cool image. It reminds me of that one video game. What was it called? Assassin's Creed? I never played it, but I'm familiar. I wanted to play it. I'm like, that looks super cool, but I'm terrible at those. Hey, Dark Rogue. Great show, Rob. Thank you, Dark Rogue. I want to point out that since no one else has, that Don Lemon, at the very beginning of his stream, stated, we're going to go in there. He didn't say that they were going to do. He said we. 100%. Yeah, we played that clip. We played that clip the day it happened. I think that was on Monday. He was standing outside. I'm sure we have it saved. We're posting links on our Substack, so it's probably over there. I don't think I have it right now. But yeah, he was standing out there saying, like, we're going to go in, or like, why are we, like, he was explaining why they're there. Like, we're here because they're going to go into a church, and they're like, we're here for this. It wasn't like it happened and he was reporting on it, which I think is the argument you can make of the J6 journos who got arrested. Owen Schroyer went to jail. Steve Baker went to jail. So they got prosecuted. Don Lemon could as well. And I think they have a better justification. Like, they weren't there planning to go into the Capitol building. There was an event happened, and because they had no security, and they were tapping people on the shoulders and saying, come on in here. And it was reactionary. In other words, not preparatory like Don Lemon's was. Thank you, Dark Rogue, for the nice dono. Good to see you. Yeah, and I think we'll try to dig that clip up because you're exactly right. In fact, yeah, okay, we'll come back. Smooth Brain Crypto. If Lemon Don is not charged, we will see an influx of lefty journos interrupting church services and interviewing pastors and attendees every Sunday. Yeah, we'll see. Don Lemon looked a little bit freaked out over there. on that image. And yeah, I think, in many ways, they'll call these people martyrs, right? Like Nevi, Lakima, whatever her name is. She'll be a martyr. I think that she'll be happy kind of about this to elevate her profile. We'll see how the reaction is. Like, they're already rallying around her. Mayor Frey's like, release her. She's a political victim. So we'll see how long, that goes. And if that's the case, yeah, you might have a lot more of it because people will want to have that and achieve that status. Mizzy M. Happy to see these arrests come quickly. Yes. Still, no DC headliner names in prison yet, though. That's true. Now, that would really impress me, Pam and Kash, if you're listening. Yeah, and I think they are. I mean, I think they are getting, a little bit frustrated with some of the pushback. And I think it's probably more useful to stay optimistic on these things and to give them the benefit of the doubt. There's a lot that we can't see. And they can come out, like, what if they came out with like a, 25-person indictment and it got everybody? You're like, oh, damn. Then, I think if you're overly critical, thinking about myself, I might look back on that and say, well, maybe you should, a little patience, I think, too. And then also when I was looking through the FACE Act stuff, I mean, it does take time, and I didn't realize how kind of much time elapsed between these cases. So Biden's people were years, and it felt like they went scraping around to go bring those charges in context of the Dobbs decision. So I'm not sure how quickly they could bring charges. And of course, you can compare and contrast that with a bunch of them, and maybe we will. Like, for example, with the Clintons, from the date of the violation of the subpoena to the charging, how much time is that? Because it happened with Navarro and Bannon, and we can compare and contrast those cases as well and see. The Savage, hey, Levy Armstrong arrested? Ha! Told y'all the other day in a super chat. She's a fake attorney to disguise that she's an activist, a fraud, and a liar. Well, she might be a real attorney, but just a terrible one because she's now committing serious federal crimes. The Savage, good to see you. And we'll see what the charging documents actually show and what they say happened and what her defense will be. And it's going to be in Minnesota, so there'll be a Minnesota jury. But this one will be a fun one to cover because these people were monstrous in their behavior and they knew what they were doing and they didn't care. They wanted, I think, to goad, like literally, they wanted to goad. They got it. So, all right, we'll cover it. Pookie's ma, or protect his wife's job by not going against her boss. That's right. Yeah, he's got to, keep things nice and cool over there. And if he says, yep, Don's indicted, and her boss said Don is unindictable, there's a pretty severe conflict right now because Don just got indicted in the district when her boss said he shouldn't be indicted. Liberty Vet, what's up? Raphael Warnock is still a pastor at his church. Is he? Over there? Yeah, Reverend Raphael, Senator Reverend, I think is how he has it on X. Senator Reverend Raphael. It's like, all right, guys. He wants to keep all the titles because you stack them onto each other. They're very label people, the Democrats. There's all the, letters after the name, and I'm Dr. Jill and all the things. We get it. Sharpie Guy, do you have a different schedule, Rob? No. Says, you said it's on Bondi to hire more lawyers. Okay, well, if you're not interested, how would you find them? That's a good question. I would probably put an ad on LinkedIn. Hey, what's up? Take the red pill. Good to see you. Red Pill Fight Club. Good to have you here. Janek just is gifted a memo from Red Pill Fight Club. What's up? Hyphen is here. Donnie Potwin in the house. Common Sense is here. And DeWitt. All gifted memos courtesy of Red Pill Fight Club. Thank you for doing that, Red Pill, over on the Rumbles. Great to have you. Hey, one old guy. Anything you say and stream can and will be used against you in a court of law. Noxima Armstrong. And they were talking a lot. They were out all over the news cables admitting all of their crimes. Well, we thought we had the right to do this. Well, that's not a defense in the court of law to think that you can do something that's illegal. Ignorance of the law is no excuses, they say. Former LEO. They need changes of venue in all of these prosecutions. There will be zero convictions or consequences if the trials take place in that radical left-wing hellhole known as Minnesota. From former LEO. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I think you get some, some Christians on there. I don't know. But you don't need many people to obstruct to get a hung jury. We'll see. But they need to be charged. We'll leave it up to the process and take it from there. One old guy, Jack Smith, gets a legal spanking in court. Jail, jail, jail from one old guy. Good to see you, one old guy. Hopefully soon. Says, the look on the woman in red over Smith's shoulder tells you the story. It's a look of pity on a special child who just pooped his pants in class. Oh, no. Jack, did you poop your pants? I don't think so. I hope not. Maybe. He probably did. Says, look at the lady in red. She's disgusted. Just look at her face, says one old guy. Yeah, Mr. Don. Thank you, one old guy, for the donos. I don't know. Maybe he did. Mr. Don, I do not recall as I sit here now. Yeah, right. He said that like 1,000 times today. I do not recall as I sit here now. Spuds, how can Jack Smith legitimately cash a paycheck if he wasn't legitimately sworn in to do so? Yeah, he should be divested of all of his ill-gotten gains. Dispossessed of the stolen money. And he should pay back all of the treasury money, too, that they used to prosecute. That's our money. What's going on over here from Emperor Trajan? You know, there's going to be a cold rush out, I think, over these next few days. We're in Arizona, so we don't really get much of that. But this is a public service announcement, all right? Minnesotans out there, especially for the trans women, your testicles might freeze during the protest. Public service announcement, so be careful to the trans women. Object Class Keeter, what's up? Says, here's a thought. There was no witness because no one believed it was a legitimate oath of office. Who did Smith answer to, himself or the AG? Yeah, very important question. Yeah, and that was a very important question they didn't want to answer, because if he did report to Merrick Garland, then he's under control of the Biden administration, and the Biden administration is attacking their political opponent. If he's not under the power of the president, then he's kind of like an independent office. He's like an independent body. And what authorizes him to have carte blanche power across every jurisdiction across America? What are the rules that create that office? And there aren't any, of course. So that's why he's completely illegitimate. So, hey, Greg McNeely. What's up, Greg? Yeah, you know, I thought this was great. And I was thinking maybe we might like live stream this. I don't know if this is appropriate or not to live stream, but we were big fans of Scott Adams here. As I mentioned, he was, you know, inspirational in my life as a boy. I read his comics, even, you know, when I didn't understand exactly what was going on because I'm 10 years old. But yeah, this weekend on Sunday, January 25th, 11 a.m., simultaneous simulation SIP is going to be happening. So please remind everyone, rest in peace, Scott Adams. He's going to be live streaming. I don't know if they're okay with you kind of jipping in on that, or if they just want you to go over there. But I'll figure that out. Emperor Trajan, and rest in peace, Scott, man. Emperor Trajan, sad thing. I used to check on him like every morning, you know, wake up. Hey, there's Scott. Remember they wanted to charge Trump for inciting rioters? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Yeah, well, they wanted Trump in prison for the rest of his life. Even James Comey was like, we can put him out in the field, in a double wide, out in the forest. Emperor Trajan, liberals went from snitch on your neighbor if you see anything illegal to I'm willing to die to protect my illegal neighbor. These people are clowns. True statement. Object Class Keeter. Amazing. Dem memory becomes fuzzy when questioned. Yeah, as I sit here now, I can't remember anything. Mark Elias, super smart guy, comes in to testify at the Michael Sussman trial. I can't recall. James Baker, General Counsel, FBI. I can't recall. So the Savage, 1969. Dems are fuzzy about many things, even fuzzies. Yeah. And I don't even want to know what that means in their world. Hey, one old guy. If the woman in red is Jack's wife, she looks very troubled. She looks like a spouse watching the trial of their loved one, knowing what really happened and cannot dispute the evidence against the loved one. That's interesting. So who was the woman in red? Do we know that? Let's take a look. Let's see right here. This woman? Yeah, she does look a little bit perturbed over there, one old guy. It's a good observation. Maybe it is stinky there. I don't know. Hey, E Special Sov. Hey, what's up? It's Jean-Luc Picard. And the first mate, Riker. No matter how much society advances, swords will never be obsolete. Why? Because they are a cutting-edge technology. Riker, Commander Riker. Jean-Luc, John. What are you doing? Hey, Dan Smith, Dan Sundin says, regarding Jack Smith, needing to sign for the office he is said to represent on the 14th. Yeah, and Doc Master Elliott has a good Substack, I think, on this one. Doc Master Elliott, if you're there. Says, yeah, 14, September 24, Georgia case plea, August 31. They took his mugshot and everything. These freaking maniacs. Hey, get back in the box, Jack. Jack in the box. Bing, I'm Jack Smith. I'm not a real boy. Bing, not a real boy. Not a real boy. Constantly. Thank you, G-Gum. Jack in the box. Hey, Savage. Man, that was one of the funniest videos of all time. I remember when that hit the internet. Bing, bop, boop. Bada bing, bop, bing. Amazing. The Savage 1969. Can we all take a moment to simply appreciate Representative Brandon Gill? This man is legit. That was really solid. Yeah, that guy was good. I was thoroughly impressed by that. And he didn't let Jack just weasel off. And is he a lawyer? Is he like a prosecutor? Or like, what's his background? That was really solid. I don't know. But it was good. Hey, one old guy. It must be because that's the Judiciary Committee, right? So one old guy. Wow. There is no way Jack can word it that is making his actions legal. That's why he says, as I sit here right now, I don't recall anything. Yeah. One old guy. This Jack Smith hearing exposes the true authoritarians were who they were and are Democrats. From one old guy. Yep. And hopefully the exposure continues. But I don't know how many more 3D printed FBI exposures we need. He should have asked who the flight risk was. Yeah. And Jack, I don't think would have had a good answer for that. I mean, okay, so which one of the representatives was the flight risk? Which one of the senators were you concerned was going to like go to Russia or something? Can you name one? Jack? Good question, user. Hey, Evan Kakis. What's up, Evan? Thanks for joining up. And thanks for becoming a membo. Grab the members only stream from this morning. We had a good time this morning. Emperor Trajan says Jack Smith didn't have to go through all the documents. Hell, he could have showed up with documents because the Democrat judges were colluding with Jack and the Biden administration and the J6 committee, which was acting like a congressional grand jury to just gobble up evidence and then pass it off to Fani Willis and to Jack Smith. Yeah, it was to get Trump convicted and in prison no matter what. It was everybody. Yeah, it was the judges too. Yeah, Judge Bruce Reinhart approved the search warrant. And he's got some questionable connections too. Yeah, it was a full-on judicial attack. And now the opposite is happening. Right now he's won. Now they're obstructing his investigation. So it's bad. We really need to reclaim our judiciary. Off-label podcast. Hey, remember when Steve Baker over at the Blaze Now went to prison for being at J6? Because he proved that every officer but one lied to the J6 committee. Pepperidge Farm remembers. Yeah, Steve Baker went to prison for reporting on things. So why can't Don Lemon? Good question. Off-label podcast right next door on YouTube and everywhere. Diana Quattlebaum. What's up, Diana? The coughing officer looks like a meth head. Yeah, they all look kind of like meth heads. And it's like, this is their representation. That's the type of person who was there on scene. And so we're supposed to believe his testimony about how awful it is when he's a hysterical lunatic who can't even like sit still for 2 minutes when he sees somebody. Yeah, wild. 200 watt studio. That unhinged cop, I think we know who they recruited to incite people on J6. Yeah, and like a J6er's here, and they're like, hi, I'm here to peacefully protest. And he's like, you're trying to arm my children. He's like, no, I'm here to peacefully protest. And then he's like in his face, puffing up, instigating the whole thing. Then he arrests you. Like, you know those people. Worst Comic-Con ever from 200 watt studio. Says mortal enemies, LOL. What a comic book villain mentality. Mortal enemies. It's like, what are you talking about? Stop being so dramatic. You're like a teenager or something, which is offensive to teenagers because they're much more reasonable than that guy. Hey, Diana Quattlebaum, meth head cop as delusional as all the other Democrats. Hysterical, just spring-loaded to snap at nothing. One old guy. The old FBI's award for Arctic Frost tool. Yeah, it is like an award that is passed around with a tub of lube. Yeah, probably. Oh, gosh, that whole segment. Amazing. Off-label podcast. Is it surprising that award looks like a butt, Remember that young man in the Senate hearing room? I do. Yeah, they were jousting each other in the Senate chamber, like on Amy Klobuchar's desk right in the hall. She shows up. She's like, what's all this on my desk here? Yeah, it makes sense now. Yeah, Dropkick Murphy fans are mentally ill. The band sucks, says user. I remember the Dropkick Murphys. I was much more of a Social Distortion fan in that genre. But yeah, I remember the drop kick. Those people were pretty crazy, no doubt. Alan, what's up? Alan Harkin, you're the man. Thank you, Alan, for the nice dono. You make learning fun. I'm speaking on behalf of everyone. I hope. When I say you are one of the few and proud, we learn and enjoy with you. Appreciation ×2. Alan Harkin, man, I appreciate you. Thanks for being a member. Thanks for watching over on Rumble and for the nice dono. I got to say, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here and thank you for making it so fun and all the comments and I learn a lot and we, are going through this stuff together. So it's a real honor. Alan, you're the man. Thank you for that. We appreciate you. ×2. One old guy, Thomas Nasty Massey should be renamed Turd Ferguson. Who was that Turd Ferguson? Was that a Norm Macdonald guy? That's a fun name. Turd Ferguson. Nice name. Elk Plow. Oh, thank you for that one, old guy. Elk Plow. What's up? Hey, I'm just glad peeps are going into handcuffs. Sometimes 2 of them, yeah. This is the Constitution of these United States that I signed up to defend. Well, thank you, sir, for your service, and we appreciate that. It's a beautiful Constitution. It doesn't only apply to crazed liberals who say that their freedom of speech trumps your freedom of religion. It's not the kind of country that we live in. And there's rules about that. They knew the rules. They broke them. They deserve what they're getting. Thank you, Elk Plow. This old guy says, I loved Raiklin's comment and I'm dominating you. Priceless. It was so funny. That's the worst, dude. When you're boiling mad and someone says, why are you so mad? Just calm down. You're like, I am calm. I'm going to murder you, though, for saying that. And then somebody drops on, this is why I'm dominating you. You just go, okay. He does want to murder him, but it's great. This old guy is hilarious. He's like such a troll. It reminds me of like how you get into it with your brother. Like my brother I've told the story many times, but he would come to my bedroom and he would just put his arm in the door. And I would say, get out of my room. And he'd say, I'm not in your room. And he'd like look at his feet and his feet were outside the door. I'm not in your room. And then I would get boiling mad, but he kind of had a point. Like he was in the airspace over the room. But that just made me more mad. He's like, why are you so mad about this? Like, I'm like, get out. Like, why? I'm not even doing anything. Why are you so mad? And like, all right, that's it. And then mom had to come, and calm things down. Hey, Rick, Ed is here. What's up, Ed? Ed, it's good to see you. Hey, one, the magistrate wife works for Ellison. 2, Brandsburg versus Hayes. SCOTUS, journalists have no greater rights than other citizens. You can't violate valid criminal laws in the name of journalism. You can't cause the instigation and then say you're just a journalist reporting on it. Totally ridiculous. Thank you, Ed, for the nice dono. And maybe the magistrate judge should read that, called the Brandsburg case, and get educated. And then he's going to have to make a hard decision. His wife's going to have to, maybe get fired, but justice is justice. Thank you, Ed, for that one. Off-Label Podcast. Oh, check it out, man. Sweet. 1.42K subscribers over there, man. Off-Label Podcast. Keep it up, brother. Awesome. Good to see that. Hey, Simple Davey. Hey, just want you to know, you and the membos for being awesome and helping Off-Label grow as a channel. Simple Davey. Awesome. Yeah. Happy to do it, man. We love new creators and people getting in the space, using your voice. Changed my whole life, obviously. So I'd like other people, if it fits you, to be able to find that. So Off-Label Podcast, keep it up, brother. It's a long road, but it's a worthwhile road. So congrats on that. Awesome to have you, Simple Davey. I'm in my prime, baby. That guy looks like he is in his prime. He just looks like that. I don't even know what to say. It's kind of, how I want to be one day. One old guy. Which First Amendment right is greater? Don Lemons. Ultimate. Number 1. Ensuring Congress can't establish a religion or prohibit its free exercise and guarantees freedom of speech, of the press, peaceful assembly, and the right to petition the government for grievances. Which one is greater? Well, I think that they're all equally great. There are natural God-given rights, and you shouldn't use them at the expense of others. You should respect those rights and, do your best to afford other people a respect of their rights, just like you'd like to have them respect your rights. It's just kind of the golden rule in action. And that's what my point was about America, right? It works if you have everybody playing by the same rules. Like if we all have guilt about theft, that's good for America. Like we all think, oh, it's wrong to steal. Or the old idea of America was, you you're like self-reliance, independence, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, go build it on your own. Taking money from the government, unless you like absolutely needed it, was kind of disfavored. It kind of shamed, you know, oh, he's on food stamps. Oh, he's on assistance. Oh, he can't figure it out for himself. You know, and now apparently like that's not the thing at all. Now you've got a whole separate groups of contingents of Americans who don't play by those rules. And they think that getting on the government graft is a noble thing and that you should too, because how stupid could you be for not getting that money? It's free, right? You're an idiot. So in other words, the moral and ethical components of our society, it works if people kind of have the same base layer. But once that starts to dissipate, you really can't have a country anymore, because people will say that they're playing by the same rules, but they're not. They're thieves and thieves. Hey, what's up? Liberty or death? Hey, what's up? Mrs. Liberty. Mrs. Liberty, shout out, and little Miss Liberty in the house, man. Growing family over there. Super cool. Good to see you both. And Liberty or Death, my friends, is here studying for the bar coming up soon. So we send in love and energy to our bar preppers. It's a journey. Good to see you both. Happy Thursday. What's up? Emperor Trajan says, breaking news from Right Angle News. A leftist jury in Chicago has found Juan Martinez, the high-ranking Latin Kings member who put not guilty. Not guilty. High-ranking Latin Kings member who put a $10,000 hit out on Bovino. Not guilty. Wow. That's what I'm saying. Well, how are you supposed to run a country if criminals can run free because the illegals are on the jury? Chat with me says, y'all pray for those who have to work outside during these next 3 cold waves that are supposed to come through the country. Yeah, man. Shout out. Thank you for saying this. Emergency crews, linemen, and others, please pray for those of us in the path of the storm, especially the elderly and the homeless. This is possibly going to be a large, dangerous event. Wow. Yeah, so I have not looked into the extent of this because we're in Arizona. We really don't get any of it. But I did see some pretty gruesome looking weather maps that look like it's going to be cold. So prayers up for all of those. And thanks to those who are out there making sure people aren't dying. It's amazing, heroic work. Dan, Gill founded the online newspaper called DC Inquirer in 2018, saying that he was going to bat for Trump in the public square. He marketed his father-in-law, Dinesh D'Souza's film, 2000 Mules, a political film, stating the 2020 election was stolen. Gill. Which one's Gill? Oh, Turd Ferguson. Is that Norm? That is Norm. Did I get that one right? Wow. I'm very impressed with myself. Wow, that's amazing. All right, so that was Turd Ferguson. I remember that clip. Yeah. Sean. And Sean, that was Sean Connery, right? And what, call people bastards or something like that? Man, thank you for that. That's fun. Turd Ferguson. What a fun clip. All right, my friends, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for being here. Let's take a look at some locals comments. We'll see what's happening on X, and then we'll wrap it up on the day. Tomorrow's going to be Friday. We'll be back on the regular schedule tomorrow. So same times as we had today. And maybe we'll have some more arrests and indictments coming down. Here's some local comments. What's up, locals friends? Dan. Yeah, maybe you're saying he's maybe a paid agitator. Arrested. P's over there, loving to see accountability. What's up, Lee? Lee like C. Is this recent? This guy's a professional. Yeah, sometimes these people will just travel around, kind of protest to protest. But yep, he's arrested now. He's in custody. Sergeant Bob says, if I were 40 years younger, I'd sign up for ICE. Man, we'd like to have you on there. Those illegals wouldn't know what was coming. Dear Pam Bondi, says the Veil, you are willing to protect our ICE officers and law enforcement, but why are you setting white-collar criminals free? Well, which cases are you talking about, the Veil? Let's get into some specifics. The Veil, Sergeant Bob. So what became of Garland? Did he crawl back up the damp dark hole from whence he came? Maybe he is waiting for a Dem president who will give him his rightful place as a Supreme. Nah, he's too old now. I think Garland, he's getting up there. You want somebody a little bit younger. It's been a while, right? Because wasn't that during the Obama years? It's been a while. He's up there now. But where is he? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'll get subpoenaed at some point. Dan, hey, regarding Jack Smith needing to sign the oath, he is set to represent on 14 September 23. Yeah, so I guess my question is doubling down on the timeline. Do you have fake oath, indictment, new oath, which I'm pretty sure is the timeline. Sergeant Bob, which means, oh, those 2 indictments were indicted by somebody who never even took the oath. Like if Lindsay Halligan is illegitimate so that the Comey and the Latish case can get dismissed, why weren't all of the Jack Smith cases dismissed instantly on the same basis? Because he's not a real boy. But he never got that benefit. Sergeant Bob says, hey, J. Edgar Hoover was Satan. Could be true. Now his disciples must be cast out. I know. What are they printing over there? What is happening? Have you noticed this, Rob? No. What is this? The Obama like porta potty building has the black cube kind of installed in it. That's pretty interesting. That black cube, I think that's a Muslim thing, right? You got to go touch it or you die or something. I don't know what the rules are, but I don't know what it is. It's important. They fight hard to touch that thing, I think. Rose, it's not retribution. It's a preventative measure. We want to send a message that this is not acceptable in our country. Exactly, right. Don't break the law. The corrupt officials who promoted the attempted coup need consequences. Yeah, we can't exist in a nation state where we just have prosecutors who just spy on whomever they want and attack their opponents. Yeah, Jack Smith is as legitimate as the Fed is. In other words, not. Thank you, Turbo. This one's good. Tobo from Alpha News. Yeah, we follow Alpha News, I think, on X. They are very busy these days, of course. They were established after the George Floyd rioters. They produced a movie. It's called The Fall of Minneapolis, seized by the Somalis. Shout out to Alpha News. I think we follow them on X. Yeah, they do good work. Apparently not guilty for the Latin Kings leader putting out a hit on Border Patrol. I mean, yeah. What are you supposed to do about that? Probably invoke the Insurrection Act and just aggressively expel all of the illegals. Yeah, what's up? Liberty or death is here. Yeah, this was a fun one. Greenland, U.S. territory. And Trump announced we talked about this morning, but there was some conversation about the Greenland plan. And I saw this meme. He posted both of these memes. And he shared a map, this is fake, but he shared a map of the U.S. owning Canada as the 51st state. We would welcome them, but they can't vote in our presidential elections. Way too lib. All right, so my friends, it has been a beautiful stream. Thank you so much for being here and hanging with us today. Let's see what's happening over on X. Got a couple of comments, and then we'll wrap it up on the day. Neuro D, good to see you. Thank you, Neuro D. Sharing our link over on Rumble, and we do really appreciate you following us on Rumble and on Locals and on Substack. In case something happens on the YouTubes, if you're there, thank you, for checking out these other platforms because you never know. So thanks for that, Neuro D. We appreciate it. Join Rob over on Locals for the morning Membo streams and the best memes on the interwebs. We have a great members-only community. Lots of fun, awesome people, and we do a lot of streams. Hey, James Pepper. Hakeem Jeffries implies that Don Lemon is helping ICE set up the protesters for arrest. Hakeem says that ICE should not be disrupting church services. Perhaps Hakeem is confused. Probably. Yeah, probably. And maybe Don is setting them up. I don't know. Don seemed very happy about being there. I think he was excited. Hey, Jody. Great show, Rob. Thank you, Jody. Arrest them all and some of the judges, too. God bless you all. Anti-liberal watcher says William Kelly's name in the convoy was something. I'm a real-life YouTuber member, 4 years. Thank you, anti-liberal watcher. 1776 Restoration Movement was John Dobbins, a.k.a. X-Ray. I'm not sure who those people are. And Eugene Corey. What's up, Eugene? Thanks for the YouTube link and sending that over. Good to see our friends on X. And it's been a beautiful day. Okay, here we go. A couple more came in. Thank you for these. One old guy says, for a Democrat like these judges ruling and Fruit Loop Lemon, it is whatever protects me and not you that is greater first, right? Yes, that's exactly right. For their party, it's whatever it takes to win. Doesn't matter. They'll break the law. They'll invade illegals. They'll get more they'll get more apportionment, more congressional votes, steal more money, prosecute their opponents, throw them off the ballot. Doesn't matter. Thank you, one old guy. And Dan says Brandon Gill, the guy who was questioning Jack Smith today that we saw, Texas, 26th District, U.S. Representative. Amazing. Muffin Rando, John Donut, thank you for clipping for us this afternoon. K Bean, Carrie B, thank you for clipping for us in the mornings. Neuro D, Janek, Dog Digger, Geegum Geegum, Elliot, Just Rhonda, our amazing mods. We appreciate you. Thank you for being here. My friends, it has been a beautiful stream. Hopefully, we wake up, every morning and there's just more arrests like we got today. It was very, very, very enjoyable to see justice meted out to the people who would commit the crimes. No one is above the law, they told us, and we're looking forward to being able to say that a bunch more. So thank you for being here. Thanks for subscribing on your way out. Thanks for liking the video and all of those things. We'll pause here for the evening, but of course, we'll come back tomorrow. We'll get into it again, and it's going to be a great Friday. We'll close out the week strong and together. Thanks for joining us as we do. Tonight, I hope you have the most beautiful and peaceful rest, the most pleasant and sweet dreams you can possibly have. And then you come back tomorrow to join us to get into it again, because we are going to be here. And in order to do this appropriately, we need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chatting line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers, truth on our side. Watching the watchers, we won't be denied. Watching the watchers, eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through